Let's get into this Oklahoma-Alabama affair, Russ. Oklahoma now 0-5 in the college football playoff all time. They just can't seem to get over the hurdle. They drew first blood, but then Alabama got rocking and rolling, and we saw special teams. We saw turnovers, and we saw a lot of big points on the scoreboard here.
Yeah, it's funny. That first 2 or 3 series, I was almost like, wow, is this going to be an Oklahoma walk? And then all of a sudden you started to see Alabama sort of take a deep breath, and they said, hey, we're not going to get 17 points back and get in this immediately, but we're going to get a drive, and we're going to get some points, and slowly but surely they climb back in it. It was one of those games where, to me, it was odd that Oklahoma literally, once they got that lead, it seemed like they couldn't avoid screwing up. They kept making one mistake after another, whether it was the punter with the drop punt, whether it was a few different opportunities to
a kicker who didn't miss all season,
right? And he missed a short one. Like it was very odd. I don't want to kill the kicker because without him, they might have lost another game or two this year because he was so perfect all year. But yeah, it was a very odd game. And I mean, to me, the thing that came out of it was all season we had talked about John Mateer, where is he? We had mentioned Deion Burks, the receiver at Oklahoma, saying, he hasn't gotten a chance to really do his thing. Well, I'll tell you one thing. He did his thing last night.
Yeah.
And he showed me that he's an NFL slot receiver. I mean, he showed the juice. He showed the ability to make guys miss. The tackle, Derek Simmons for Oklahoma, a little bit of struggles. I was a little bit concerned as how he's going to handle really being an edge guy. We had talked about it a few times. He's got those shorter arms, probably going to be better suited to playing inside. And for Alabama, I mean, I saw a lot of the same things we talked about all year. But the one thing that jumped out to me was I think both Mateer for Oklahoma, Ty Simpson for Alabama, neither one of them, from what I saw in last night's game, looked like they are ready to make the jump to the NFL. They both look like guys who could use another year to get experience, to have a chance at being the player they want to be at the next level. I was very impressed with Jeremy Bernard. He barely even touched the ball early on, but then he became the go-to guy in the second half. Jam Miller made some good runs, as did the Hill kid. I thought Alabama it's a big statement about their head coach that they kept their cool and they just chipped away. After being down 17, it was just one drive after another. They didn't panic. They played good football. Tim Keenan getting the blocked punt, which I don't think you ever see for a 300-pounder, was unbelievable.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think Alabama deserves a lot of credit for keeping their cool, not panicking early on. I don't think their quarterback played a great game. He missed a number of throws that he should have made. But overall, he avoided the big mistakes most of the game, and they did a good job. I just came away looking at it like Simpson didn't look comfortable, and Mateer, to me, the big question is, can he read the defense? He had the one big one early that was the interception, but then later there was one or two where it was clear he threw to the wrong spot. And those two, to me, said these guys need to be in college another year. If there's a way for Mateer to work it out, I know he was a transfer portal guy from Washington State, but I don't think either one of them looks like they're ready. And the other thing I learned is, and you and I have both seen this for years and years about quarterbacks and prospects, and Mateer sort of is the ultimate indicator. I don't care how strong your arm is. I don't care how talented you are throwing the ball from awkward positions. Don't throw the ball regularly when your feet are in the air. That's left to Patrick Mahomes when he's in his prime, and that's the only human who should be doing that. Everybody else, keep your feet on the ground, make your throws. He made some beautiful throws last night, and he made some awful ones when he's trying to jump and make throws. You can't do that. So that's something he has to work on to become the quarterback he has the arm talent to be.
John Mateer reminds me of, remember the And One mixtape, the street ball, basketball, they go around playing it hard. That's what John Mateer is. He's a street baller. And I came away with the same impressions because he can't read progressions. If the first read isn't there, he tucks and runs. And you saw the pick six interception. It was costly. And the more I watched him, he kind of reminded me a lot of what Jackson Dart is, right? A guy that really can't progress through the reads. First chance to tuck it and run it, that's what he does. And really, like Mateer and Dart are both quarterbacks now that are probably more dangerous with their legs than they are with their arm. And Ty Simpson, you're right. I mean, early on, looked very uncomfortable. I think, he got into more of a rhythm as the game wore on. He made the throws he needed to, kept the chains moving. You see the flashes there with Simpson. What I would say is this: I agree with you that going back to school another year would be the smart decision in terms of his development.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's the right decision in terms of business sense, because I look at this draft class, Russ. I can't find a franchise quarterback. In fact, the only guy that's really going to be put a place on that pedestal is who Ty Simpson's going to face next week in Indiana and Fernando Mendoza. And the Hoosiers, by the way, a touchdown favorite in that game. But I will say this: should Simpson advance next week, beat Mendoza in the matchup, go on and win a national championship, well, I don't know if Ty Simpson's draft stock will ever be higher. And we saw what happened to Garrett Nussmeier, right? We saw what happened to Drew Allar. And to me, like, I think Ty Simpson's going to have a very big decision on his hands. And I think it really might come down to how this college football playoff pans out from here.
Yeah, it's a really interesting debate because I think we both agree that what you see on film now is not what you want to see as your final sort of picks of a kid coming out of college. You'd like to see him be a little bit better. But I get it. The sooner you get in, when your draft stock is high, the sooner you can get a bigger contract. Because if he does go in the first round, that means he's getting a guaranteed 4-year deal. But the big concern to me is, in terms of him coming out and maybe his draft stock never would be higher, is the history, and you and I have talked about it, quarterbacks with 1 year of starting, the failure rate is astronomical. So do you say, I want to get in quickly when my draft stock is highest to make sure I get that initial payday? Or do I say, you know what, maybe even if I come back next year and maybe I have a little bit up and down year, but I'm a better overall quarterback, and maybe I don't go in the first round, maybe I go in the second, I have a longer term career because I put more time in. Because remember, if he doesn't get a second contract, it'll be, and I'm not trying to knock that, it could be Mitch Trubisky. Second overall pick, and now Mitch is a good backup. But what if Simpson could wait a year? Maybe he ends up being the 28th pick next year instead of the 15th or the 12th or the 10th. And he's a better quarterback for it. And then he gets that big second contract. My only thing is, what's best? I get the draft stock part, but what's best long-term? Quarterbacks can play 18 years now. What's best to guarantee you become a quality starter as opposed to a journeyman who struggles to make it?
No, it's an interesting debate. I also think, you got to look at next year. You've got the Dylan Raiolas of the world, and, you're probably going to be up against Dante Moore and, Arch Manning, and, it's going Lenore Sellers, and it's going to be quite an interesting draft decision for Ty Simpson. John Mateer clearly needs a lot of. I mean, I don't know if he would even go on day 3 at this stage if he was in this year's draft.
He reminds me of a lot is that kid Tommy Stevens. Came out a while back.
Yeah, Stevens is a lot bigger, I think.
Yeah, bigger kid, but athletic, sort of a better runner than thrower type deal. So
right.
So maybe Mateer is that third down quarterback in the CFL.
Yeah, well, I think he'll get a long look see at the NFL, but he's got a long ways to go. I will say this: I love these games because big time players make big time plays and big time games. And Tim Keenan, you didn't hear much from him throughout the game, but that big blocked punt and like you mentioned, Deion Burks, even in the losing effort, to have a huge game on that platform. These games matter. And I think, these are kind of the lasting impressions that NFL scouts get to see. And, even our Mason Thomas, who missed 7 weeks, good to see him back into action. No doubt. Any other players you want to discuss here?
No, those are the big ones. But, I just want to sort of follow up on the point you made about, like, this is the last time, the last impression. I always remember to this day, because I didn't like Mitch Trubisky coming out. And I remember he was playing in a big bowl game. And I remember talking to a scout after that game to say, what'd you think? And he said, Russ, he said, the thing that bothers me, he said, until the second half, I didn't even remember he was playing quarterback because he did nothing. And it wasn't he did anything terrible. He just didn't do anything that drew your attention. It does say something. Those big games matter. So, yeah, like you said about Simpson, he could go out this week and he could put on a show and knock Mendoza a little bit down, right? I mean, these big games, I mean, hey, in the NFL, it's great to say it's great to win in week 8 and week 12. But what matters, and the only reason Eli Manning's even being discussed for the Hall of Fame is because he had 2 postseasons that are great. If you just looked at his regular seasons, he wouldn't even be in the top 100 quarterbacks probably ever. But those postseasons, big games matter.
Well, winning is what the bottom line entails when it comes to the game of football. And one last point I'll make about this game is you got to give Kalen DeBoer credit where credit is due, because this guy, he wins big games, stared down adversity, and came up big in a game where everybody thought Oklahoma was going to take this. And with all the side noise, distraction, Michigan, everything was blocked out. And, man, Kalen DeBoer is the real deal, and he's made me a believer because I really wasn't coming into the season, but I now am. All right, Russ Lande, Rick Serritella, this is the All Access Football NFL Draft